How's it going, everyone? We've got a lot of exciting PlayStation game updates to go over in this video. Well, one particular very exciting update, and then we do have a couple of notes on how games are doing commercially, the failure of Dragon Age Veilguard, we'll talk about that, and there is some talk around social media right now and the discourse, and some of the notes in the earnings conference call that were made that point towards EA CEO claiming that Dragon Age Veilguard's poor reception was due to the lack of certain live service elements. We'll talk about that, and I'll try to break that down, and I'll try to do my best to not just completely crap all over EA. And then also, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 has cracked 1 million copies sold in 24 hours. I think this game and its success illustrates something very important, and we'll talk that at the end of this video. But right off the bat, Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater has been leaked for a release on August the 28th. The PlayStation Store also leaked a brand new trailer for the game. Now, I am seeing a couple of dates go around online. I've seen August 25th float around. I've seen August 27th float around. August 28th would... Let me pull this up. What date is that? That would bring the game coming out on a Thursday. That makes a lot more sense to me than the 27th, which is a Wednesday. Games don't typically release on Wednesdays. And then Monday, big games don't release on Mondays either. So the 28th makes sense. Thursday, it's generally Tuesdays, Thursdays, Fridays. Those are the 3 days throughout the week. It used to really just be Tuesdays that major games would be released, but now it's kind of expanded to Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. Delta Snake Eater, if you also look at that date, August the 28th, that is around the time, the week of, or just the week after, where you're coming off the lull of this summer, where it's a real dead period for a lot of big game releases. And the end of August is where the wave of big releases kick off. And if you're telling me that one of the games kicking off the wave of big releases fall of 2025 is going to be Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater, oh boy, are we cooking. To give you guys a comparison, 2024, on August 20th, I believe it was, that's when we saw the release of Star Wars Outlaws, and then you saw the release of Black Myth Wukong right after that. So those were like the two games that really kicked off the wave of notable releases in 24. 25 looks like Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater gonna be among those games that's gonna kick off the wave of big releases into that fall season of 2025, which, man, that's incredibly exciting. I do see a lot of people saying that this is a lot later than they had expected, given that they had opened up pre-orders for a little while. They had really started pushing the game from a promotional sense last year, and I think a lot of people were expecting the game to be a spring 25 game. I really was never expecting that. I assumed that the game was going to be in the latter portion of 2025, and it looks like that is coming to fruition. I am really curious when they are going to drop Ghosts of Yotei, because Ghosts of Tsushima came out in 2020, and it was in August of 2020. If we're going to get Yotei and Delta Snake Eater in the same month, that's going to be insanity. And then you've got other big titles, Death Stranding 2, all the games from Microsoft coming out. I think 2025 is going to be a really big year for a lot of marquee game releases. And while PlayStation first party isn't bringing out a lot of stuff, I think from a third party standpoint, Microsoft as well, and you know, the Switch 2 is going to drop on top of that. I think everybody else outside of really PlayStation is cooking with a lot of good stuff. I think Nintendo's going to be dropping a lot of great stuff alongside Switch 2, although I do expect a lot of Nintendo's games that they drop to be cross-gen. I see Microsoft already having a banner year in 25, and then you've got big third-party titles like a Delta Snake Eater, you've got Expedition 33 that I'm incredibly excited for. There's a lot of big titles I feel coming out in 2025. While I do crap on what PlayStation's bringing to the table as far as their first-party output, I think from everybody else and a lot of other publishers, there's a lot of quality stuff coming out. However, gotta go over some bad news as well, and EA, generally not one of those publishers that's beloved by everyone, and they are noting that Dragon Age the Veilguard's inability to reach a wider audience said that the game must align with the changing expectations of players who prioritize shared world features and deeper engagement alongside compelling narratives. Now, those words are buzzwords to attach to live service games. Deeper engagement means how much money have you spent on the game? How engaged are you to your experience? Shared world, obviously, can I show off my skins that I bought these juicy microtransactions for? Like, that's what that means. Don't let shared world and deeper engagement fool you. The man's talking about live service. Now, I am going to say from his lens, from Andrew Wilson's lens, he is on an earnings conference call where he has to say things that are going to appease shareholders. Would you look at the top selling games of 2024? Oh, it's a lot of live service games. Black Ops 6 and a bunch of sports games. Shout out to Sparking Zero stealthing its way into number 4. I had been saying that I expected it to be one of the best selling games of 2024, so I'm gonna give myself the old pat on the back for that one. But if you really look at a lot of the output in 24, the best selling games are live service games. However, you're talking Black Ops 6, you're talking Helldivers 2, you're talking a bunch of sports games. Dragon Age ain't no sports game. It's not a game like Helldivers 2. What are you gonna do? You're gonna take the Dragon Age IP and just slap in a co-op mode to it and a bunch of skins? Like, that's not gonna work. It's just not gonna work. You gotta look at games more like Baldur's Gate and other successful RPGs, because it's not a case of Dragon Age was needing to be live service. No, it's a case that the game did a lot of things to annoy players, and BioWare nuked all of its goodwill prior to the release of Veilguard, so the game just being very mediocre, having horrendous writing. I just think it was never gonna be this game that does exceedingly well. And 1.5 million players total, that number, you know, you're including people that are playing the game through EA Access, you're talking about people that bought the game on Steam potentially and refunded the game. There's a lot of nuance that goes with a number like that, but the game has fell short of 50% of what EA was expecting out of the game, which is significant to say the least. And I don't think it's due to the lack of live service games. That brings me to my next point. Warhorse Studios has announced over 1 million of you have stepped into our world. We're beyond grateful for your support. Thank you for making KCD2 a triumph. 1 million copies sold. This game had peaked at over 175,000 players last I checked SteamDB. For comparison's sakes, Dragon Age Veilguard was at like 83,000. That was its peak. 83, 88,000, around that range. So KCD2 doubled that number, and we're not at the weekend yet where that's really where the number ramps up. And given the success and the critical acclaim of this game, I could see this game being one that does really well. Now, let me say, with KCD2, saw a lot of controversy attached to this game for obvious reasons leading into the release of this game. If you're on social media, had a buddy of mine hit me up before the release of this game asking me what I thought about this. Immediately, I said, based on looking at everything that's going on with this game, this is a vocal minority. I truly felt like it was a vocal minority. Some people are upset, but this game is going to do exceedingly well. To be fair, I have been playing this game for the last month or so, and I know the quality level of the game. He hit me up a few days before the release of the game, and I just told him, yeah, like, this is a vocal minority. This game is gonna do really well. I just put it at that, and I've said that over and over again, you guys. When you look at all this social media stuff and dialogue around games, you really have to dissect what is a vocal minority, what is going to impact sales, and what is actually a significant amount of people pushing back on a game. With KCD2, always felt it was a vocal minority. I look at a game like Intergalactic, I look at a game like Dragon Age Veilguard, like I just said, those games were not a vocal minority. I really don't believe, and we'll see with Intergalactic. I am very confident with Intergalactic, and I feel like if I'm right about Intergalactic, that'll give me a lot more confidence in terms of and I already have a fair level of confidence when it comes to ascertaining, again, what's a vocal minority and what's an overwhelming amount that's going to impact sales. That's really what you have to look at. You can't just shout from the rooftops, oh my god, this is going to happen or that's going to happen, and just blanket statement all games. And I look at the replies in the comments already, and it's a lot of blanket statements. There's a lot of statements that people like to apply to all games without realizing that there are instances where it's a vocal minority, and then there are instances like a Dragon Age Veilguard, like an Intergalactic coming out, where it's a significant amount of people that I assure you will impact sales. And that's really what you have to look at. When we live in a social media era where anybody can have a voice, anybody can get on social media, say a lot of things, and some things are said just to garner social media engagement, and that's the name of the game. You want to drive engagement, but it's really important that you realize and you differentiate between what's a vocal minority and what is this overwhelming majority. And I think KCD2 illustrates that, and that's why I wanted to bundle in the topics of Veilguard and KCD2, because I think both those games illustrate two starkly different things. KCD2 had that rumbling leading into its release where I always felt that was a vocal minority. With Veilguard, I did not feel that. And I will say this, years out from the release of another game. You know, it's easy for me to say that now that we have KCD2 sales numbers and Dragon Age Veilguards. I will put that right now. As far as right now goes, Intergalactic, that game is not a vocal minority. That game is a significant amount of people, and I don't think at this point that game is going to do very well relative to what the expectation is going to be for a big budget Naughty Dog game. It can sell 1 million copies, 1 million plus copies, but relative, again, to what a big budget Naughty game is hoped to sell, I don't think it's going to do very well. We'll see. We're, again, probably a year and a half, 2 years out from the release of that game. If they show gameplay and I feel differently, I'll talk about it differently. But as far as right now goes, and based on what I've seen, I don't think it's a vocal minority that's pushing back on that game, and I do think it'll impact the sales figures of that game. But that'll do it for me. Again, as far as Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater goes, looks like August 28th is that date. Incredibly excited for it, and if that's going to be the big game to kick off that fall gaming release cycle, that's pretty exciting to say the least. Dragon Age the Veilguard, an absolute flop, 50% below what EA had expected. The game did not have live service features, but I don't think that's why the game failed. I think Andrew Wilson, I would like to believe he is saying that just for the sake of the conference call and to, you know, appease shareholders, but you would have to know better. At least I would think. I say you would have to know better, but you really don't have to know better. Let's be real here. And KCD2 doing incredibly well. And KCD2 does very well. And I was expecting that the whole time through. Again, I think we're living in an era where it's very important that you guys realize what's a vocal minority and what's actually an overwhelming amount of people that's going to impact sales numbers. But that'll do it for me. Let me know all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. Sound off there. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, do us a favor and hit the bell icon. This way you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. That's the best way to keep up with all of our uploads, and we usually try to upload 2 videos a day. And with the bell icon hit, you'll be notified whenever we do upload a video. As always, thanks for watching.